iOS has seen some big steps forward over time, including things like the ability to have an app running in the background, extensions which allow you to share data between apps, and multitasking, where you can have two apps on the go at the same time. However, iOS 11 introduces a host of new features that make this release the biggest iPad release so far. In fact, it's almost like the iPad has become a completely different device overnight. That's why this review is going to focus on iPad features in iOS 11. The first host of features that it's worth considering together are multitasking and drag and drop. The multitasking has changed from beforehand, whereby it used to be you had a slide in and then you could select your apps from a list of apps there. Now you have the dock, which comes up from the bottom and allows you to select apps and put them onto the screen. You can also get apps from Control Center or Spotlight Search or from the home screen and drag them onto other apps. That's why it's also worth talking about drag and drop here. Drag and drop is a whole new way of interacting with your iPad. It comes in different forms across the iPad, such as the ability to take one app, open up multitasking and add it onto the app that you were previously using, or it could be moving files around. But it also comes in the form of things like grabbing some text in an article and saving it to your notes, or grabbing a URL from the top of a screen and putting it into Twitter to share it quickly. Although, who uses Twitter? These features are present across the operating system, and the dock is something which is always there on hand. To access the dock, you just slide up from the bottom and then it appears with the apps that you select there, as well as 3 apps which are suggested, recommended based on what Apple thinks you might want. Usually it seems to be previous apps you were using, but sometimes it's based on time of day, handoff, all these sorts of things that we've seen before in iOS in its selection of apps as well. If you keep sliding up from the bottom, then you enter into Control Center and the multitasking view. It's different on the iPad to the iPhone because Control Center looks different from multitasking there. And it's even different now between the newly announced iPhone X and iPhone 8. So there you go. Sorry, iPhone 10. Drag and drop also matters when it comes to managing files. And speaking of files, there is a new Files app. This is kind of like iCloud Drive used to be, but more. Basically, it allows you to select different document providers, so it could be Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, whatever, and you can send your files between services there. You can drag them from one to the other, easy peasy. The next set of features that I want to focus on are the ones that you get from sliding up from the bottom and sliding down from the top. So that's Control Center and also Spotlight and the new cover sheet. Control Center has changed a lot in the last few years. It keeps being updated from a single screen to multiple screens. Well, now we're back to a single screen and it's next to your multitasking pages, so you can see the other apps there. You can customize this by going into the settings and selecting what items you want to appear there, so you can choose the best, most relevant items for you. So for example, I've added a HomeKit icon, so if I press down and hold, it opens up my HomeKit light options, and from there I can tap and select the HomeKit lights to switch them on or off. You can also have options such as screen recording, which is how I've done the screen recording for my iOS 11 view videos. So there's a few different options that you can get from Control Center, and you can select it how you want. It's not as flexible as something like widgets, but maybe we'll see that continue to grow in the future, especially with widgets changing again. So while we're on the topic of widgets, now there's only one screen of widgets again on the iPad. This feels like a real shame to me because the 2 widget system setup was great. You could have one set here, one set there, and then you could have different things at the top when you had it in landscape mode. Now we've gone back to 1, and it seems to have the same layout as the lock screen. It's a strange move from Apple, and I wonder what they plan is for this in the future. I think this is probably the first step towards changing things up more dramatically in the future. Perhaps widgets on the home screen rather than on the lock screen. With something like iOS 11 on the iPad, this perhaps makes more sense than in the past, whereby the dock encourages you to keep more applications within the dock. The cover screen is also a new and different feature there. Previously we had the notification bar, which if you drag down shows you your notifications, and this was different from the lock screen. Now they've kind of been merged together so that you have a more familiar experience across the device. So if you slide to the left, you get your widgets. If you slide to the right, you open up the camera app as well. So that's quite useful. There are also a couple more features that you can notice across apps. For example, screenshots are now different. If you take a screenshot, you get the option to mark it out before you send it. So now a screenshot will go into the corner. You can tap on that screenshot and then you can draw over it, you can add some text, you can then choose where to save it, where to send it, and decide what to do with it at the end. This is really good because in the past you might duplicate screenshots or save screenshots that you don't really want to save because you have to save them before you can do an action on them. And these take up space in your iCloud storage or in Google Photos or whatever. So this is a real good improvement, and especially the ability to mark up as well with simple built-in tools. On the 10.5-inch iPad, you also get a new quick type keyboard. This looks exactly like the old keyboard, except there are faint symbols along the keys. If you swipe down, then you'll get these keys that you can see that are also there. So it's a great way to quickly switch between typing letters and then typing numbers. This still works if you have multiple letters in your language which are hidden behind another one. So for example, if you need to select a different type of A, an A with an accent, a tilde or something like this, you could hold down the key and then still go up and select the letters there. So in the end, they've done a really good job of implementing this whereby it's quite an obvious different action to get these quick type keys as opposed to more language specific letters. There is also the ability to automatically set up your device when you have another iOS 11 device nearby. This is great because it allows you to set up your device much quicker than in the past where you had to type in your Apple ID and so on and so on. But it still lets you keep your security because you still need permission from both devices. In addition to these cross-device, cross-app upgrades, there are also a host of new changes and improvements to different apps that are built in. For example, the App Store has completely changed its look. Now it focuses on telling stories with more information about each thing. It's very much like Apple Music you changed in the last version with less information on the screen all at once and an easier navigation. For example, games and apps are now separated out, and there are recommended editorial articles which update every day. At least they have been updating every day for the last couple of weeks. It also has a new app icon, so yeah, that's cool. Notes has had more features added to it, which helps it to stay being a really great note-taking application, and one which maybe you really don't need anything else anymore. These include the new ability to add inline Apple Pencil notes. All you need to do is tap your Apple Pencil onto the screen and you'll start drawing a picture. These pictures are more limited than if you add a drawing to your Apple Note, but you do because you have fewer color options and things like this, but you can select how much space you want them to take up, and the ability to quickly change between text, little picture, text is really good. Next, we have the document scanning that's been added into Apple Notes. So now, as you're making a note, you can add the ability to scan a file, to take a picture of the document, scan it, and then it will be saved into your note as well as an attachment. You also have the ability to add in tables, and there's a new way to select between headings, titles, and different styles, which looks a lot clearer and is a lot more obvious than it was in the past. Finally, all handwriting that you do in Apple Notes is now searchable thanks to machine learning, artificial intelligence, whatever. So this helps you to find notes which have writing which you just sketched out by your hand. which is really good, making it simpler to find what you put in there in the past. Apple Mail has also added the ability to use inline drawing like in Apple Notes, which is a really good add-on for allowing you to add in a little picture and send it back, maybe to help someone understand what they're trying to express. Sometimes pictures are simpler than typing or writing. In addition to these improvements, which are very iPad focused, there are also other improvements across different Apple apps, which will come to iPad and the iPhone. I'm not going to spend too long focusing on those because this is more iPad focused, but they include things like Apple Maps, which now has indoor mapping, Apple Music, which has the new Connect feature to see what your friends are listening to and sharing. Apple News, which has a new spotlighted information section, spotlighted news, so you can see the top stories which are recommended based on your interests. Safari ad tracking blocking, which helps to prevent those websites which send tracking codes and then they show your activity to other websites. So if you've ever been to Facebook and it seems to know what you were looking at last, that's why. And a host of new iMessage features, which includes a slight change in the way that it's laid out and the ability to send money via Apple Pay to different individuals. Great for parents who want to give their kids a little bit of money to spend. Overall, iOS 11 is an amazing iOS update that is focused on the iPad. It really does help take the iPad in a completely new direction and make it a much more functional first primary computing device. If you do a lot of productive work, even if it's just some of your productive work, this is a massive improvement. Take for example, signing documents. Now it's even easier, especially when you have multiple documents to deal with. That's because you can load them up from the email, sign them in your app, then organize them via the Files app with drag and drop, taking it between where it needs to go, and then finally select them all and send them off in Mail, or even just mark them up in Mail. That's a massive step forward, something which in the past was possible but wasn't so easy for your average person. You might have to use something like Workflow to do it well. Now anyone can do it simply. That's what is coming with iOS 11. It's more pro features for those pro users, which I suspect you might be if you're watching this channel, and also more accessible pro features for the average person. Does it mean it can replace your computer? Maybe not. But if you want to use your iPad for productive work, it's got a whole lot better. Thank you for watching this video from iPad Guild. We help people do more with their iPads. If you've liked this video, I'd love it if you left a comment below, perhaps which feature in iOS 11 you're most looking forward to, and also if you could like it and subscribe to make sure that you get the next video we have out. Data between different apps, like again, multitasking, and start here. It starts.